welcome to the science class. Today's portion, states of matter. States of matter. Matter exists in three forms. Matter exists in three forms. Which are they? Solid, liquid and gas. Matter exists in three forms: solid, liquid and gas. Then first one is solid. What are the specialities of solid? Then this pen, board, books, textbook, this table, these are examples for some solid objects. Okay, then solids have a definite shape. What are the specialities of solids? Solids have a definite shape. Solids have a definite shape. Solids have a definite shape. They do not change the shape when transferred from one container to another. They do not change the shape when transferred from one container to another container. These are the specialities of solid. Then solids have fixed shape. They do not change the shape when transferred one container to another. Then second one is liquid. Then examples for liquid, that water, milk, oil. These are some examples for liquid. Then what are the specialities of liquid? Liquid flow and can be easily poured from one container to another. Liquid can flow and easily poured from one container to another container. For example, water when poured into a tumbler, the liquid take the shape of that tumbler. Then water is poured into another bottle. Liquids take the shape of that bottle. So liquids do not have fixed shape. Liquid do not have fixed shape. Liquids do not have fixed shape. It takes the shape of the container in which it is stored. Okay, it takes the shape of the container in which it is stored. Then third one is gas. What are the specialities of gas? Then air is a mixture of many gases that contains oxygen, hydrogen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen. Okay, then liquids can flow. In the case of gases also can flow. Okay, gases also can flow. Then gases also flow and do not have fixed shape. Gases also do not have fixed shape. Gases also do not have fixed shape. Then gases also do not have fixed shape or size. These are the specialities of solid, liquid and gas. Then next one is changing the states of matter. Changing the states of matter. The three states of matter can be changed from one form to another. Okay, one form to another. Then first one is, in the case of ice. Ice is in which state? Solid, liquid or gas? Ice is in solid state. Then when we heat ice, that changes into which form? When we heat ice, it changes into water. When we heat ice, it changes into water. Water is in which form? Solid or liquid? Liquid. Water is in liquid form. So when we heat ice, that ice changes into water. This process is known as melting. This process is known as melting. Then when we heat ice, that ice changes into water. Then solid state to liquid state. This process is known as melting. Then second one is water. When we heat water, water is in which state? Liquid state. Okay. When we heat water, it changes into, when we heat water, what happened? It changes into water vapor. It changes into water vapor or steam. Okay, changes into water vapor or steam. Then water vapor or steam is in which stage? It is in gaseous form, gas form. Okay, then water, when we heat water, it changes into water vapor. This process is known as evaporation. Okay, this process is known as evaporation. The next one is that water vapor. Water vapor is in which state? Gaseous form. That water vapor, when we cool that water vapor, it changes into, when we cool water vapor, what happened? When we cool water vapor, it changes into water droplets. It changes into water droplets. Okay, water droplets in which state? Is in liquid state. That is in liquid state. Then water vapor, when we cool this water vapor, it forms water droplet. It changes into water droplets. This process is known as condensation. This process is known as condensation. Then next one is, next process is known as freezing. Freezing means when we freeze water, it changes into ice. When we freeze water, it changes into ice. When we freeze water, it changes into ice. This process is known as freezing. Then first one is melting. Melting means when we heat ice, it changes into water. Then solid state to liquid state. That process is known as melting. Then second one is that water changes into water vapor. When we heat water, what happens? It changes into water vapor. Then liquid state to gaseous form. That process is known as evaporation. Then third one, when we cool water vapor, what happened? To form water vapor changes to form water droplets, then gaseous form to liquid form. This process is known as condensation. And when we freeze water, it changes into ice. This process is known as freezing. Next one is float or sink. Float or sink. Then objects which remain on the surface of liquid are said to be float. Okay, for example, that plastic bottles, dry leaves, then ticks, these are examples for some floating objects. Then objects which remain on the surface of liquid are said to be float. Then second one is sink. What do you mean by sink? Some examples was object that sink. Object which settle below the surface of the liquid are said to be sink. For example, coin, that spoon, then plates. These are some examples for that type of objects. That objects which settle below the surface of liquid are said to be sink. Then solid, float or sink, that depends on depending on their weight. For the example, that tissue paper, then cotton, that type of objects float sometimes in water. After that they absorb water, they become heavy and sink. Okay, after some time they absorb water, they heavy and sink. So the objects which remain on the surface of liquid are said to be float, and objects which settle below the surface of the liquid are said to be sink. This is float and this one is sink. Okay, thank you.